in other tutorials, it basically takes the voltage from, say, A, which is the crank source, and then we'll convert it to a stable charge source for the whatever the profile is for the battery. So these V6s and L1 and 3.5s, 200 amp hours, they're all prismatic. These ones are all Lifepo4, so they have the high voltage, and that charge profile will be 14.6. So if you're going to get a DC-DC, or if you're going to go and go to the expense of putting a real proper heavy-duty dual into your car, then it's good to get yourself a DC-DC with solid import, built-in VSR, and it does everything for you. So we've had DC-DC before that you can plug into a Cigar socket or connect to the crank battery, and it will regulate the charge for your battery. That's fine, but you have to add a VSR, and there's a fair amount of work goes into that, and you need to get an auto electrician to do it. So what we've been using for a number of years is this Matson, the ME221, and that's a 20 amp hour, and there's also a 40 amp hour version. But the thing that we like about this was that it's made by a very reputable company, so it's Trident, but it's also, from a price point perspective, it's good value for money, and it does everything you need. So I've just got it sitting here at the moment, and that's an all-in-one unit. So it just comes like so, and you'll get other units that look very, very similar, different brands. And then you go to some of the higher end stuff like the Energize Red Arcs, and they'll have the same sort of process for setting this up. So they'll have an input that will come from the vehicle, which is basically this one here, and that would connect to your vehicle, a crank battery, and then what we'd suggest is that you'd have, say, a 50 or 60 amp resettable switch or fuse, which you see some of the vehicles we've done, and that connects to your crank battery. And then you put this here, it actually sits next to the unit. It's probably a better position for it. So you can have that sitting there. You can even double-sided tape on it, doesn't really matter. And if that's sitting down the side next to your fridge or wherever, it's out the way, it doesn't take any space up, and it's also sitting in a cool environment, so you've got ventilation. And then you've got another one here, which is typically your brown and black. That's a solar input. So you can plug the solar panel directly into this, and it will regulate it for you at the right charge. The other cool thing about these is it has multiple chemistries, and you can simply press the button and change it between lead acid, gel, AGM, and then Lylon or Lifepo4, and then wait to remember what you've got set up for it. So that's as simple as it is. And then you've got the blue and black, which would connect into the Nomad. So that would go into my charge port like so, and then that's a full dual battery setup, and it's done very, very quickly. Just make sure you run a correct OEX or something, the DC cabling from your vehicle. Don't use, incorrect gauge. Make sure you use at least, on the 20 amp, use at least, say, 40, 50 amp cable. Preferably 70 is as min that I would use on that. And then if you go to 40 amp, then probably want to use something bigger again to, 90, 100 amp hour, around that there. And then always fuse it between the crank battery and the DC, and it'll do the job for you. So it will shut down when the car's off, and it'll pick up when the car's running. So again, read the instructions, because you'll have the solar input there, it plugs directly to the solar panel. What we're doing, a lot of people doing, is they'll get a solar panel with a regulator and they'll plug it into this and say it doesn't work. That's because you've got a regulator going into a regulator. So maybe look at the solar panel, make sure it's not regulated, and plug it into this. This regulator here, with the solar input, you could quite happily put 360 watt, 400 watt panels connected to it, and it'll regulate it for you. And it won't do the solar and the car at the same time. It will decide where it comes from. Max charge will be 20 amp on the 20 amp one, or the 40 on the 40. So they're really nicely finished and such. They do the job really, really well, and it takes away all the work you need to do in trying to figure out what to plug in, what not to plug in. And they're simple to connect up. Just remember that if you do have a smart alternator, that you may have to take this blue wire and connect that back to ignition source. So you just need to find an ignition source when the car's on that detects it, and then that'll trip that and say it's on. A lot of vehicles, I haven't had one yet that I've had to use that wire. They've all worked fine without it, but you may need to use that, and it's quite a simple process. You just run that back to the fuse box somewhere where you've got a power source that comes on ignition, and then connect that in there. So it's very, very straightforward, very easy to do. Typically you'll install one of these in probably an hour and a half to the battery, and again they're out the back and out the way. So that's a DC-DC with solar input and a built-in VSR. So VSR stands for voltage sensitive relay. Electricians, you'll hear them talk about relays, but that's basically what it will do. It detects when the crank battery is coming down in voltage and disconnects when the voltage of the crank comes down slightly. So when the car's off with ignition, and the power's coming down from the battery, it detects it and it just disconnects it. So it's not going to drain your crank battery. And that's one of the great things about this. It's pretty much set and forget. And the other cool thing is that if you've got other batteries out there, like an AGM, like I'm actually at the moment using one of these to charge my my AGM in the motorcycle off it. So I just got an Anderson connect 2 Bulldog clips, and then I can plug it in and change the chemistry, and I can charge an AGM and lead acid gel. So if you're out in the bush and someone else has got a flat battery, you can actually start your car up, connect it to this, change the setting for it, and charge someone else's battery. So they do have a lot of uses, and again they're not that expensive, and they're very easy to set and forget. So we're doing some special deals at the moment with the 20 amps and the 40 amps with the 135s and the 106s. But contact at nomadpdu.com.au and just ask us, what we can do for you depending on your needs. So again, we'll talk again soon. Hope that explains DCDCs a little bit better for you. Again, we still keep getting questions about DCDCs. A bit of confusion out there, but at the end of the day, just ask the question if you're not sure. It's better to be safe than sorry. So thanks again for joining us, and we will